Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lisa. Today we will be talking on this webinar about teaching vocabulary, which is, it sounds like it's one thing, but it actually has lots of aspects to it. So welcome. You are welcome to write in the chat and say where you're from and say hi. We will be going through a bunch of slides for about half an hour, and after that, it is open for questions, and you can ask any questions you have about teaching vocabulary, and I will do my best to answer them all. I've been teaching, I'm from South Africa, from a small town called Robertson, and I've been teaching English and other things online, in person for so long. All right, great. So let us jump right in. Okay. I see someone from Cape Town already. It's where I'm originally from. Not anymore, but where I'm from originally. Hi and hi. I will chat to everyone after we have gone through things, but there are quite a few questions that you can all ask. So it's not just me talking. There are things where you can answer questions, and it is quite, I see from London. We often get like all of the continents, which is always great. All right, let's jump in. So teaching vocabulary, lexis. Lexis means words and phrases. So we teach words and phrases and collocations. So words, obviously just individual words. Phrases. So phrases can be things that are things like, I can't think of any examples right now. So collocations are when words are in groups. So collocations are things like fast food or happily married, check account. So those are words that go together usually. And phrases, things like get up in the morning, do your homework, make the bed. So those phrases. So sometimes make the bed, very easy words, but putting them together and knowing the whole phrase is what you need to learn. Okay. So eliciting. All of you who have been doing your assignments will know everything about eliciting. So eliciting is when you don't just tell the students what you're going to learn. You get the students almost to tell you ask questions and learn what they do know, and they can discover, that's a good word, they discover the language and the vocabulary almost themselves. Okay, so it's a great method, and you will know so much of it in all of your assignments and all of the courses. There is a lot about eliciting. So it involves asking questions to assess what the students already know, because maybe we can't assume that they don't know that. Maybe they actually do. Some EFL students may have been exposed to vocabulary at home or through a relative, or they've learned stuff in movies, so we don't always necessarily know what they do know. Okay, why elicit? So there's more student engagement. Instead of it being a passive exercise, the students just sit there and listen to the teacher. And there's a lot of teacher talk. Eliciting has more student engagement and less teacher talk time, and more student talk time. Lesson content is remembered better, so the students are more likely to remember what they've learned if they have discovered it themselves, instead of it just being something that was written on the board or written on the whiteboard. Teachers can assess what students already know, and they can also make associations with context. So as I said earlier, things like make the bed, maybe students all know what beds are and making things, but they don't know the whole phrase. So that's the kind of thing, if you are eliciting and working with the students, you will be able to see what is known and understood and what isn't. You also can adjust the lesson to the student's need. So if you have to be flexible, if the students know everything, you can move it around so they don't get bored. Or if they're yawning or there's bad behavior, you can sort of speed up. If they are battling, you can slow down. So you can adjust. As with all teaching, eliciting helps you with this. So you aren't just focusing on on just the lesson. You are working in a more, I can't think of the word, altogether. I'll think of the word in a moment. Okay, so here are some examples. All right, what we are teaching here is this phrase. Often it says, what is the model sentence? So the model sentence in this scenario is, I missed the bus. So we don't just tell the students, I missed the bus. We need to get from the students this word, missed. So what happened with the bus? They missed the bus. So firstly, you give an example. All right. So this morning I was late. You tell them a story. The bus left 5 minutes before I arrived at the bus stop. What happened? So the students will be able to guess. You can, depending on the level, have put the first word, I, or subject, then maybe a gap, then the bus. Then say, I didn't catch it, did not catch the bus, what happened? So you sort of lay out the plan and the students fill in the word that you are looking for. So then the student will say, missed the bus. Yay, and then they will remember it. So that is the whole point of eliciting. And leaving gaps for students to fill in the word that you're looking for is a great way of doing it. It's not the only way, but it is one of the great ways. Okay, let's have a look here with the teacher. Let's go back and find the misunderstood. Yes, and also, so which words do the students know? Before you jump and go forward, which words do the students know? Which words do the students not know? So you need to find out before you continue. All right. You can also use specifically with younger students or maybe lower level students. Pictures are great because that paints the picture without you having to explain. So you can say, what happened there? Pictures are great. So who is there? What is that? And you can go through all that. There is a bus. There is a child. They are running. Is it the morning? Is it the evening? Is that a mom? What is happening in this picture? Did they get to school on time? Did they catch the bus? Catch the bus, even as a phrase. Catching a ball, you actually have it in your hand, whereas catching a bus, you don't actually catch the ball in your hand. Catch the bus in your hand. So looking at all of those phrases while you on your path. Okay. All right. With abstract ideas, it's harder to just have a picture. But so maybe you use mime. I was explaining today panic to a student. I mean, to explain panic is quite hard, but if you show panic, you're like, ah, he got it immediately. So miming, facial expressions, body language helps. So, you bring out your acting skills. But often it's a show and tell if you need to explain something. So role playing, if it's a more abstract concept. Other eliciting techniques, you can ask the students to list other, oh yes, okay. So what other kind of things, other than pictures and just using words, you can, in the chat, put down other ideas for eliciting. As I said, miming and facial expressions. If you have any other ideas, you are welcome to add them into the chat. Okay. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. If you have any other ideas to help with eliciting. I'll have a sip of water while I wait that 10 seconds. Oh, I see one immediately, realia or realia. I never know exactly. So realia is real stuff. I always just call it a prop, a thing. So if you bring in hats or an umbrella or things for the kids or students, kids or adult students to look at, it's a great way of getting words and learning words. And they're also more likely to remember an object, perfect. And you can find pictures. Obviously, there are pictures online. You can even draw pictures, drawing pictures on the board. Here's some lovely suggestions. I'm just putting that up for everyone. Body language, drawing, show and tell. Perfect, very nice. So great, lovely thing. So all of these are tools that we can use when we are eliciting. Okay. Obviously, for older students or maybe more advanced students, synonyms, so similar words. Yeah, if they're advanced students, but you're still teaching a new word, synonyms are great. Antonyms, I love antonyms because they're up, down, left, right. If you could give the opposite, I think it's a great way of learning words if you remember things in pairs. So antonyms and synonyms are great. All right, very nice. So obviously you can't say what is the antonym to a lower level student, but the opposite, a hot, cold, that kind of thing to any level of student. Okay, so role play concept. So something like, as I said, panic. So frightened. And we have had some other great, so I think facial expressions, tone of voice. You can even do something in the manner of the adverb. So if you can even do that as a game. So frightened, and then you say, open the door. So how would you open the door if you were frightened? How would you brush your hair if you were frightened? So that's a great, adverbs are great. If you do something in the manner of the word, it's a fun idea. It's a game, it's a fun game. So that's a thing that's popped into my head. So those are other methods. And then you have given me drawings, pictures, mime, bringing stuff, all perfect, very good examples. Okay. Then there's the whole to translate or not to translate. That is the question. All right. I think in some ways it's I'm not going to say cop out. Sometimes if a student truly does not understand, it can be useful, but it's not something that should be used all the time because you're not likely to remember it. If you ever remember learning a second language as a child, just having it in your own language didn't necessarily make it memorable to you. So also you might have a class full of students from different countries, in which case translating into 4 different languages is not particularly helpful. So when teaching English, it's best to keep everyone speaking English in the classroom all the time and find another way to explain. All right. It is tempting, but encourage a classroom where only English is spoken because it improves fluency. And if students know they can always just speak in their first language, they might get too used to it and not be brave enough to speak in English. All right. Grade your language. So the CEFR, which stands for, I just wrote it down because I just always forget, the Common European Frame of Reference. Okay, which is one way of grading students' level, their level of English is the CEFR levels, which you will know. We'll go into more detail in a moment, but it's A1, C2. That's what we're talking about when we say CEFR. So when you are teaching a new word, the new word will be a level higher than they are. But when you are explaining it, you must be in their level or below. So make sure that you aren't using words that are higher than their language level to explain the word that you are trying to teach, because obviously that will be impossible. Okay. We will look at the CEFR levels shortly. And then also create a context for the word. I was just thinking of a few words. So in English, there are lots of words that there are many different meanings to the same word, as you all know. So I thought of one and wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. So if you have the word trunk, for instance, you're teaching trunk, the context. If we are talking about animals, then you would learn trunk on an elephant. Without that context, trunk could mean anything. Whereas if you're talking about traveling, then trunk could mean a suitcase, a big suitcase. So that's a very simple reason why you have to give the context. Where does this word fit in? Otherwise, you have no idea. So a teacher must always clarify the meaning in context. Or is it a noun or is it a verb? because often same word can be noun, verb, etc. So you always have to give the word in context. If it's just the word on its own, it is almost meaningless. Okay. All right. So this is now, it's not a test, it's an exercise. Which of these examples, that come on the next page, is more likely to help students understand the meaning of miss the bus? So now we're looking again, bus, they might know, but what happens if you miss the bus? So on the next page, there are 2 examples. And then you can, I'll read through them, and then you can answer A or B. So this is putting the vocabulary in context and thinking which of these 2 sentences is more likely for the students to understand the concept of missing the bus. Okay, so A, I missed the bus this morning. I arrived at the bus stop 2 minutes after it had left. So that's some of the context. Or I was annoyed because I missed the bus. So I see everyone is so quick and everyone said A. So perfect, completely. I was annoyed because I missed the bus is another concept completely. Now we're going into emotions and what happens when you miss the bus. You know, it could be annoying. So I see someone said B, I was annoyed because it's a simpler sentence, but it isn't really about missing the bus. It's about how you felt after the fact, not just what happened. It's not looking at the action itself of the bus being there and you not being there in time and then waiting in the rain for an hour. Okay, but very good. B is too complex, absolutely. It's another concept on it. It's an emotion linked to it. So it isn't just, I missed the bus. Very good. If you look at all of this, you think, how do we ever teach anything? B complements A, absolutely. B gives more information. So once you understand what missing the bus is, then you go, okay, yes, and I was annoyed because I got wet or I was late for school. So that's step 2, but that is not the concept of just missing the bus. It is, seriously, as I say, how do we ever teach anyone anything? Okay, so yes, A is correct. All right, then when we teach a new word, something else that we talk about so frequently in all of the assignments is MFP, which stands for meaning, form, pronunciation. So the first thing you need to do is focus on what does this word mean. So that is accuracy. What is this word? So then it's kind of thing you could do a gap fill worksheet, a word definition, a matching task. You could match a picture to the word or the word to a definition, a nice simple definition. So learning the meaning of the word is the most important, and it's the first step. So that is the first step. Okay. And then I'm just looking at my other notes on the side. Okay. Then the form of it, what is the word? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? Is it an adverb? That comes afterwards. So you obviously need to know that. Is that a describing word? Is that a doing word? So we need to say this, but we first need to know what does the word mean. And then maybe teach at higher level, then we look at the happiness, he is happy. So you look at all the different forms of the same word, which you can look at after you know what the word actually means. And pronunciation is the third and not final, but the next part of the MFP. So the pronunciation, where does the stress go in the word? Especially if it's a longer word, and often the verb and the noun will have the stress on different syllables. So all of those different things that you look at step by step by step. Okay. And then eventually you know the word and you know how it's said and you know what it means. Very good. All right. Then we check for understanding. Concept checking. Again, part of your assignments all the time. A method used by teachers to assess if the students understand the meaning in context. So we don't just say, can fall into the trap. Do you understand? You ask special questions that you can ascertain as a teacher, do the students understand? And that by answering the question, the student will work it out and be able to understand. Okay. Also, it sounds like such a complicated concept, but it's just one to get used to and to, all right. So there's a task again. So I missed the bus. That again is your model sentence. That is the concept. Which of the following is the most appropriate concept checking question? CCQ. All right. So we're looking for understanding I missed the bus. So we have our three questions. Do you understand? Did you get to school on the bus? Did you arrive on time and why? All right, so again, I'm going to give you a few seconds and you can put in A, B, or C, and we will go through this. All right, you guys are so quick. However, almost everyone has said C. And is that the correct answer? This is tricky, and this is why this is a tricky concept. Okay, the next slide says it's actually B. And I will explain why. I'll try to explain why. Okay. All right. So the concept here is missing something. All right. So do you understand? Obviously, you all know that is not the right one. Did you get to school on the bus? No, you didn't. So you missed the bus. So that is the actual concept. Did you get to school on the bus? You didn't. So you missed it. So that is the most basic part of the question. C, it's got great questions, but did you arrive on time? Why? Maybe you actually walked to school. Maybe your friend's mother drove past and you got a lift. So did you arrive on time actually isn't referring exactly to the bus and missing it. So did you arrive on time and why isn't actually referring to the bus. So it is as I say, it's so complicated. So option C may not clarify the meaning of missed. I might have got a lift with a friend. Okay, obviously we know, do you understand? Because students don't ever want to say, no, I don't want to understand, as you know, because then you feel bad and you feel silly and stupid. So do you understand? We know it's not the right one. So they don't want to look stupid in front of their classmates. Okay, so I do think that you won't only necessarily have one question. So if you are trying to concept check, you will have a whole bunch of questions. This one is the best of the three, but I think that if you asked all of these together, you would also get the answers. And here we have a great comment here. We need concept checking questions for teachers completely. And also, one says this, and you see it in a webinar and you go, yes, that is the answer. But in reality, it's not necessarily where you will go. You'll be so desperate for the students to understand that you'll ask a million questions. I speak from often the correct concept checking question is not necessarily the first one that comes to mind. You might ask 15 to eventually get the answer that you want. Okay. All right. Language grading, as was mentioned before. We can chat about concept checking questions in our Q&A session and go through, we can share knowledge and advice. But let's talk about language grading. So the CEFR levels. So obviously they are important when eliciting and concept checking vocabulary. So as I said before, you must only use language your students already know. So if your students are, for instance, B1, and you are explaining a word that is C1, you can't use C1 language to explain the word. You have to use B1 or even A2 language. So you use lower level language to explain the slightly higher level word. That makes sense. So use only the language your students already know to explain the new word. The new word, the new language will be a level above, or maybe even two levels above, because you have a text or a story and there are a few words in it that are some levels above. So if you explain new language using other unfamiliar words, so if you are using C1 words to explain the C1 word, the students are not going to understand and they will lose track and they won't learn the words. That makes perfect sense. It does. So you use words that are at the level or even a little below to explain and describe the new words that are at a higher level. All right, so here is the list of the CEFR levels. So A1 is beginner, and there are other webinars that actually go about the true beginner and false beginners, but A1 is beginner, basically. A2, pre-intermediate, B1, intermediate, B2, advanced, upper intermediate, and C1 to C2, advanced and proficient. So if we are English speakers, then we will be at a C2 level, hopefully. All right. And often you get students who aren't exactly in that level. They might be intermediate, but at the top end, or at intermediate, but at, so within a class of students who are at the same level, there will obviously be, not everyone's at exactly the same level. It's just good to know them. If you know who you're teaching, then you know what to teach, obviously. Okay. Oh, it's another fun little quiz. I like these. Okay, so we have 3 sentences and said by 3 different kinds of students. We have an A1, B1, and C1. So the first question, I've been to Paris 3 times, is number 1. Number 2, my name's Fernando. I live in El Bonito. And number 3, I'm not certain that you really understand this concept. So you can all do it very quickly. Number 1, what level would number 1 be? You can all type it in. A1, B1, or C1? Okay, so I'm putting it all in together. Good. I am seeing all correct answers. So yes, I've been to Paris 3 times, B1, because it's the present perfect, which is not a beginner level. So perfect. Number 2, my name's Fernando. I live in El Bonito. And everyone again, great. I see loads and loads of answers. So we have A1, so it's in the present tense. My name is, that is usually the first thing that one learns in a new language. It's where you're from. And the last one, obviously, I'm not certain that you really understand this concept, would be, you all know, what you could say. So very nice. This is quite an easy task, but it's good to just to keep that in mind. All right. So they have all the answers, but you all got them right as well. Perfect. So B1, that last one is not something that any beginner would ever say. All right. Then we have a different fun concept, recording new vocabulary. So you can, once the students have learned these words, where do they keep them? So you can have a notebook, which is good. You can have a box of cards, which is also good. Some students love having cards, even like to study. So notebook, I like a book. But so whatever class you have, if you begin with, all students can have a book and add the words in as they learn them, will be great, or have a box of cards. I know there are a couple of online teaching things where they have online things you can add the words, you have a vocabulary list, but it's a great thing to keep a list of all the words that you have learned so that you can refer back to them. what's included for each word. So what information do you include? The meaning, the pronunciation. Here's on the next page, great examples. So this is a fun word card. So I definitely think like for kids to draw a picture, because kids love drawing pictures, so to have a word with a picture at the most basic level would be perfect. But here we've got, this one is a whole bunch of things. So we have ghost. So initially it's noun, it's countable, because you can have one ghost and two ghosts. Then we have the, how you pronounce it, the IPA form of how you pronounce it, written there. Then the meaning, so spirit or soul of a dead person. Then we have an adjective, and again, how you pronounce it, so ghostly. And then some words that are linked to them. So we have, it is haunted when the ghost is there. To haunt, so we have another word that's linked, and then different forms of that word, and some examples. I don't believe in ghosts. The ghost of a broken-hearted woman is supposed to haunt the castle at night. So if you have that list of words, that card, you will never forget. You will never forget. So yes, the meaning, form, pronunciation, and the IPA. Obviously, not everyone knows how to read an IPA, but it's good to have it because you can always just copy and paste it, and then you know. All right, so that's a great, if you had word cards like that, they would be fabulous. And if your students create word cards like this, they will never forget those words. All right. Then in class, then you recycle the new vocabulary, because it is said that students need to use vocabulary and 5 to 16 times before they know it and remember it. When I was looking at this, I was thinking it's like babies when they taste food for the first time. They have to taste it something like 8 times before they like it. I don't know why that made me think of that. But until you have used it, seen it, and you really are familiar with it, that word is out your head. Again, anyone who has learned a second language knows that. But unless you repeat it again and again, it's gone. So that you do need to recycle. How do we encourage students to use new vocabulary? So all sorts of different ways. So there are exercises, and are these also for any age and level of students. Word games are great. Crosswords, so word games where, again, match the pictures to the word. Yeah, those where you join them up. And gap fill kind of things where you have to fill the word in. Crosswords are fun. Crosswords are always fun. Word searches, those where you put a thing around. I Spy for young kids. It's a great thing. Matching activities, speaking and writing activities. So obviously graded in terms of age and level. But if you teach some vocabulary on Monday, then Wednesday you need to go through it again, and maybe on Friday again, and maybe the following week, so that you recycle it, so that by the end of that session, the students really do know all of this new vocabulary that you have taught them. Excellent. Okay, and we have come to the end of all of the slides. So just to let you know that all the previous webinars, and there are so many of them, I was searching for other versions of this one, just to have a look, on the TEFL Academy YouTube channel, and they go back years, a couple of years, not like 15 years, but quite a few years. So there are webinars on this topic, there are webinars on all of the assignments. So if you are doing L3B or L5C, there are webinars on all of that. There are webinars on teaching overseas, on teaching advanced students, on teaching business English. There are webinars on so many things. And if you need to consult any of them, go to the TEFL Academy YouTube channel and go to videos, and then you can search, and it will take you to an array, because there are different versions of a lot of them as well, filmed over all of the last few years. And as we always say, if you have any questions about teaching vocabulary or about anything else, your course, your assignments, etc., you can always send a ticket to tutor support. Okay, lovely. We go straight into the Q&A. All right. And now I'll also go through some of the questions and comments from earlier. So hi from Cape Town. I see hi from London, Vanilla, Sharon, and Jane. Oh my goodness. Hi from London, from Thailand. And I've lived in London and just joined the L3 certificate. Cool, thank you. So hi everyone. And then we looked at all of those. Some great things, lovely. And then those are all the answers to all of our questions. Okay, here we have a great, okay. Do we learn about the international, I can't remember, it's called IPA in the TEFL 5? Yes, you do. You do learn about the IPA in the level 5 course. I can't remember exactly where, but you certainly do. And I think it's very fun. I don't know it off by heart by any means, but if you have like a table, it almost looks like something else I don't really know. When you learn in science, the table of elements. It reminds me of the table of elements, the IPA. So it's a table of sounds, because it's great. You can use it for all languages, because a sound like sh will be in English and in other languages, which is why it is so useful. International pronunciation language, but that's what it is. So you don't have to know it off by heart, but you can always refer to it. And it's very interesting to see how words are pronounced and which sounds there are in the English language and in other languages, because the IPA is not just for English, it's for all languages. Very interesting. Thank you. So thank you. Very nice comments there. So if you have any other questions about teaching vocabulary and picking vocabulary, it is a topic for one of the assignments. If you teach picking words to teach, selecting words to teach is another sort of it's this topic, but it's sort of a sub. So which words do you choose to teach? If you have a lesson in a book, which words will be the most useful? So it's a whole concept, even a concept within the concept. Yeah, which would be the most useful? Which would be the most used? So like if you are reading a story or a text, obviously words that are at a higher level you'd have to teach, but maybe the students are not likely to come across that term again. So it might not be the most useful word to teach. Okay, this is enough. Please repeat the language testing slide. I didn't. Which statement is for which grade? Okay, very nice. Okay. Was it this one? Language grading task. Let me do it like this. Is this, and then here's the one, they're the answers. I hope that, lucky love, I hope that is the right slide that you are looking for. Okay, so for which grade? So that one, because the language was sort of in between present perfect, and number 2 was simple present, and the last one was far more difficult. Okay, I hope that is the right one that you wanted. And let me just say hi. I hope Furkan from Pakistan. Hi. All right, here's another great, sorry if I said that. You see, I don't have the IPA for your name, which is why I will mispronounce it. Do you find teaching vocab online more difficult than in the classroom? necessarily. Sometimes a classroom's loud. If you have a student that's just one-to-one, one adult that you're just teaching online, or one kid that you're teaching online, it's not that challenging. Whereas maybe a classroom full of 18 children running, screaming could be more challenging. So not necessarily. I mean, I think the differences between teaching online and teaching in person, there are always the differences in whether you're teaching vocabulary or grammar or speaking or whatever you are teaching. There will always be differences, and some things are easier, some things are harder. Okay, great. I'm going to just get back to this slide again, that one again. Okay, here we have another great question. Thanks, guys. Okay, yes, the sources to mend pronunciation. Mend is quite a word. I think choral drilling is something I've heard about before. Where if everyone says things together, that's quite nice. So if we are saying, he missed the bus, and everyone goes, he missed the bus, he missed the bus. So choral drilling is nice because then all the students are saying it together. So then no one's getting embarrassed, thinking, who's looking at me? So that's a great way. Breaking words down into syllables is nice. And so, I'll go back to that language grade in a second. Okay, so breaking words down to syllables like, I can't think of a single example now. Making the bed. So making the bed. And where do we put the stress? Is it making the bed or making the bed? So you can underline the part of the word where the stress goes, or use those like a small O and a big O. So things like productive. So productive. There's a small, big, small. So putting that so the students know where the stress goes in the word and where the stress goes in the whole sentence. So all of that kind of thing for pronunciation are useful. But sometimes, if what a student says, you can understand what they say, but the pronunciation is slightly off, it's also not the end of the world, as long as it is sort of 80% that you can hear, and that for clarity one can understand, it is fine. But good, very nice question. We will go back to the statements for the different grades of language. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to go back to the statements for the different language. Okay, here are the ones with the answers, and I'll put it like that you can see. Okay, so the first one was I've been. I've is a contraction for I have. I've been to Paris 3 times. So it's slightly advanced. It's intermediate grammar. Okay. That is not there. If I get that out of the way. There we go. Okay. So that's intermediate grammar. The second one, my name's Fernando. I live in El Bonito, which is A1, because it's just perfect. Not perfect. It is just simple present. My name's Lisa. I live in South Africa. It's the first thing. I have a brother. I go to school. That's so that's A1. And then the last one is very complicated phrase. I'm not certain that you really understand this concept, is C1. Could even be C2. So that is a much higher grade. I hope that here's your question again. But confused with statements for which grade. I think we've now covered it. I hope that's perfect. Great. Thank you. Very good question. Let's go back to our other slide. Okay, jumping about here. Minimal pairs. Yes, and our minimal pairs has gone straight out of my head. You do cover minimal pairs in, because it's not one of the assignments I mark, so it's not at the top of my head, minimal pairs. But yes, you do minimal pairs because I have read about them, and I am now forgetting I'm Googling on my phone at the same time. Minimal pairs, word pairs, like, yes, oh yes, absolutely. Yes, of course I know this. So words like ship, sheep, yes. So when you have to look at, okay, cat, bat. So when the words are very similar, they just have either the vowel is different or the consonant is different. So lots of things to work at. Yes, minimal pair, very good. It just went on my head. If you haven't taught grammar point for a while, then it's like, what was that again? Sorry about that. I must apologize. Okay, but yes, minimal pairs, and you do look at that because I have seen questions on it with tickets. So yes, have a look at minimal pairs. It makes perfect sense when you look at it. Great question. Okay, lovely. Lovely. Let's have a look. Highlight sound differences and clarify meaning. Yes. Differences in vowels. So when you have long vowels and short vowels and diphthongs where vowels work together, and then voiced and unvoiced consonants, so f and v and t and d and all of that kind of thing. So when you are teaching pronunciation, then you look at all of those different things and where vowels run into each other and where words, if they are shortened within a sentence, that you don't say it all of the sounds that clearly. Again, I can't think of any examples to help you out with that. Okay, very nice question. Here we have another great question. What are nasal consonants and how to pronounce them? So nasal consonants are all the sounds that are in your nose. So all the sounds that involve M's and N's. Okay, so N, obviously the N, and then the NG sound as well. So singing. So anything where if you put your hands on your face and you say the word and you can feel vibration coming out your nose, singing, then those are nasal consonants. And I think if you get people to actually do that, feel the sounds, that they put their hands on their faces and feel where is that sound, then you will feel that is a nasal sound. And anything where you hum, where you can say it without opening your mouth. So and those are all nasal consonants, which you can say without opening your mouth, which is why you can hum them, because the sound comes out of your nose, not out of your mouth. So those are nasal sounds. And I would get, you know what I love? Tongue twisters. So in fact, tongue twisters are great for any pronunciation issue. You can always find them and Google them. So if the pronunciation is an R that is difficult, or an L, or nasal sounds, then tongue twisters are great. Or the T's in English are very clipped sometimes, in English, not necessarily American English. So tongue twisters are great for all, not even just for kids, because then you can look at the pronunciation of those exact sounds. And all the vowels, which every language has, different sounds, especially diphthongs where vowels combine to make a new vowel, like O, U's, ow, A, U, or. So all of those extra vowel sounds, which kind of things that you sing, and ooh. Those are good things that, in fact, looking in a mirror for all speaking kind of tasks, if there's an issue that the students can see what is the shape of their mouth, where is their tongue, where is the sound in their mouth, with their teeth, their tongue, their lips. So all of those things help with teaching pronunciation. and for all ages and levels of students. Okay, great. I love talking about pronunciation. I think it is such an interesting topic. And then if you even go to accents and where you're from and accents and people all around the world speak English as a first or second language, all with different accents, which is not an issue really. Thank you for your great questions. We still have a few minutes if there are some more questions. Teaching vocabulary, picking words, and eliciting again and again and again. It looks like someone has just joined us, which is, if you have just joined us, this whole webinar will be on the YouTube channel forever after, for posterity. I think it goes on like on Tuesday. So if you've missed anything, you can have a look at the webinar and go through the slides and see, so that you know what you need to know. As I say, and there are quite a few versions of this already. So this has been, oh no. Floppy plays games, you have your browser crashed. Oh no, that's so upsetting. I was watching YouTube. I was watching to just see, because every time we do the same webinar, there are so many different questions. So I was having a look at the questions, and it made my computer so hot. YouTube made my computer, it was making noises. Like, oh my goodness. So I stopped watching YouTube on my computer and watched it on my phone instead. So I understand about browsers crashing. I was thinking, oh goodness, golly gosh, it better not overheat. I think videos obviously are hotter than other things. It's only just mildly warm now. It was boiling hot. Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I'm not even entirely sure I will be able to answer. What does the purple bubble of crown with number mean, please? Purple bubble of crown with number. I'm afraid I don't know. It's obviously a symbol. Bubble of crown with number. A symbol, but I offhand, I'm afraid I don't know. I don't know, Jane. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, someone. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, I'll get back to it. I need to get on with the course. Hopefully, I'll do it right. I'm sure you will. So, good. If you enjoy it and put your heart and soul into it, you will. All right. Somewhere in the user, I will now look for the purple bubble with the crown. Now I know what to look for. Hopefully, a symbol. I'm looking for the. Okay. Oh, that we've had that one already. I'm right down here. Questions. Okay. So our users. Okay, you have it. All right. Top 3 people who interact the most on the live stream. Okay. Thank you. I don't have them. They don't come up on my side. So that's why I don't see them. But thank you for interacting the most on the live stream. But I don't have the purple bubbles with the crowd. Oh, thank goodness. Otherwise, I was going mad there. I was going absolutely crazy. But thank you. Thank you for explaining. All right. Questions of anything regarding lessons to computer understanding. Yes, it's mainly the questions are for teaching vocabulary, but since we have 5 minutes, if you have any other questions, we do have a few minutes that we can discuss something else, and I will try and answer questions. As long as I've got purple bubbles, I should be fine. But if you do have any other questions about anything else with computer understanding, as long as I've got purple bubbles, I'll be fine. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for explaining what they were. Useful summaries. I do think that these are useful summaries, specifically for the assignments, because sometimes it's like a simple question you have that seems that there's a problem that's simple that can be solved so easily by watching a webinar, that you need to have a look. So as I said, I'm pleased it was enjoyable. Thank you. Hours are fun. I think it's such fun to speak to people from around the world, sitting in my own house, looking at a computer, and it's fun to have conversations. It seems like I'm having conversations, even though it's just me droning on. So it's always a pleasure. And don't worry to apologize about the purple bubble. I now will be looking for that. I'm pleased it was useful to you. We all do our best. And in fact, we go to the next slide. There is a survey. I always think, where am I from? Yes, I did say right in the beginning, I am from South Africa. That's where I'm from. Originally from Cape Town, but now in a smaller town. Okay. Thank you, Rosemary. I'm so pleased that it was helpful. I'm so pleased. And what I always think and say, that's a great comment. So thank you, Rosemary. I think that as teachers, we teach, but we also learn. We learn from our students, and we can learn from our fellow teachers. And to join together and discuss and share ideas is always so helpful. Don't worry about joining a bit late. It's fine. I think when it's different time schedules, we don't always know. So Floppy plays games. Is also from Cape Town. So cool. But originally, a long time ago now. It's nice to just be fresher air now, and not so much wind. Not so much wind, but Cape Town wind is... Anyway, so yes, survey monkey. It's not a real monkey. Pity. It's just a survey. So after the webinar, in a couple of minutes, literally a couple of minutes, if you don't mind taking a minute or two to tell us what you thought of the webinar, and if you thought it was useful, and if there are any other topics that you think you wish that we would do and cover, you are welcome to add that in as well. And thank you. We teach and we inspire and we grow. Perfect. What a lovely comment. Thank you. We do, and we learn from each other. So I hope everyone enjoys their evening or night or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And do people in South Africa have British accents? People in South Africa have very many different accents. There are lots and lots of different accents. Depends where exactly you are from. So if you're from Cape Town and you went to a school where they taught us how now brown cow, then you might have a slightly British accent. And if you are from other places, there are lots of different accents. There are 11 official languages in South Africa, so there are even more different accents. A diverse set of accents, completely. You probably won't even find anyone that sounds exactly like you. So there are lots of different people and lots of different accents and lots of different languages. So taught to speak properly and clearly. So that's why I might sound British, but I'm from South Africa, born and bred. South Africa, yeah. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Many British accents in the UK as well. I knew someone who was able to speak all the way through England to do every single accent. It was amazing. It was so fascinating. But I think, and just like in America, there are, wherever you go, Wherever it's regional, there are lots of accents. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please do the survey monkey and have a great weekend. And good luck with all your assignments and all your teaching. Bye.